So we got my bird a little friend. Ah. I don't like them being in cages, but we let them out in the house. But anyway, I didn't want him to be lonely, so now we have two prisoners. But they kind of sit together all the time. It's kind of really cute. They're called lovebirds, I guess. And they like to just be together. That's cool. Rango sits. 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 Rango. 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 Sits. Sits. Rango. Muy bien. Sits. Let him muy bien. Lucy muy bien. It's always you, Lucy. Lucy. Sits. Lucy. Don't ignore it. Lucy. 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 Sits. Muy bien. Vamos. So a lot of talk about borders nowadays. All over the place, not just amongst anarchists, amongst everyone, a lot of people. Not everyone, but a lot of people in the US where it's just infatuated with politics and rules and regulations. Everyone just loves it in the land of the free. And of course that's was a big reason Donald Trump was so popular, was his stance against immigrants. Building a wall from here, because this is really, this place is crazy, it's horrible. And yeah, you want to keep a wall so this place is separated from that place. Actually, I don't mind. If they actually did build a wall, because it's probably just to keep Americans in at some point. Like if they're going to build their own wall to keep themselves in, go ahead. I don't care. But it is a kind of a serious, well, not a serious, nothing serious actually in life, but it's a real issue. It's an issue that's got a lot of people, you know, very emotional. A lot of people, which is always a bad sign. So many snowflakes now, and even like these alt-right people who are so up in arms about immigration, they get really emotional about it. They're snowflakes. They're like, oh, you know, they're almost crying as they're talking, and then they get really mad, and it's like, calm down, get a hold of your emotions. You're like little girls. but it, you know, there's a lot of issues about it, and even anarchists are a little bit divided. But my take is that the anarchists that are pro-borders aren't really anarchists that much, and I'll get into that. And don't get me wrong, like I think there's some decent people. Like I watched the debate with Christopher Chase Rachels and Larkin Rose. Actually, I watched the last third of it, so I missed the first 2/3. But I watched the closing arguments, so I get the gist of what they were saying, I think. And I like a lot of what Chase says. Just in general, like I like how he presents himself. He's very rational, very logical, so that's good. And it wasn't like a shouting or screaming debate, which is always a good sign that two people are actually have some decent arguments. It's only when you don't that things break down into yelling and calling each other names. That's the sign that, oh, here's another new dog. No, no. Hang on, hang on. Right now. Let her know. Hang on. Sit. Yep. Never seen these dogs before. Let her know. No. No. Vamos. Rango, Ben. We're gonna try going this way, see what happens. I'll fight those dogs if they come this way. Lucy, Ben. So these are like some street dogs or something. So, alright, we'll see what they do. But like I said, if they try to fight my dogs, I'll fight them. Alright, they're still back there. They're sitting now, so they calm down. Protecting, I guess, what they think is their territory. Haven't seen those dogs around here before, but my dogs handle themselves very well. We just decided to walk this way. Diffuse the situation, as anarchists always try to do. And my dogs are very anarchist. That was actually, I'm amazed at my dogs. They were so calm through it all. They're getting better. This is great. Lucy. Anyway, let's get back to the borders. I guess that was sort of like a border debate right there, right? I guess those dogs felt that was their territory. See, like dogs are actually very similar to humans. And a lot of humans get very similar to dogs in that they will get really angry and defend what they consider to be their territory. But the question is, what is actually your territory? And that's really the question. And that's what it seemed to come down to with Larkin and Chase, because they agreed on a lot of stuff, but then it was like, well, but that isn't really your property to defend, is what it really came down to. And Chase had this strange argument that I didn't really fully get, that because people in that area have been extorted or victimized by the government, that they have a first claim over the right to that area, which I'm not sure what to think about that. Just because you get extorted and, you know, and beat up by somebody all the time doesn't mean necessarily you have the right to the stuff necessarily that that guy has. Although I could see an argument for that, so that's why I was listening, totally listening. But the argument to me isn't so much about that. It's about, and Larkin said it great, it's about the non-aggression principle. Like, if Chase, so Chase is saying, well, these people in this area have been victimized, so they have the right over that area to have some say, or have this say about what goes on there. It's like, yeah, but not really. You know, you're talking about an entire continent. So someone in Philadelphia has some say in what happens in Florida when some Cubans roll up in a boat because they were victimized. You know, it gets really weird. But then, like I was about to say, if you want to enforce some of this stuff that Chase is saying, then you need big government to come around and check everyone's papers and all that kind of stuff. And no, that's never good. And that is aggression. If you got guys with guns going around demanding stuff of people, that's aggression. Unless those people have done something to hurt somebody or something, and they haven't. They're just walking around on, you know, public, you could say, not private property. No one really seems to own it. And these debates can get really technical about homesteading and private property. And actually, I don't care too much about those debates. I leave those to the scholars, people like Walter Block and people like Chase. He wrote a book, I haven't read it. Looks like it sounds pretty good, Spontaneous Order. I hear a lot of good things about it. I just don't have time, so I haven't read it. So I leave it up to guys like them to discuss these fine details about how exactly do you prove ownership of land and stuff like that. I'm a big picture guy. I don't care that much about the details. And the big picture is you don't aggress against other people and you don't extort them. And that's what government does. So to me, like my take on life is pretty simple. I actually find it's always the simple way is the best way. Just don't break that one rule and we're all good. Don't beat anyone up, don't kill anybody, and don't steal from people. You know, Jesus had a thing about that. I know it's crazy. I know I'm crazy. But that actually is the only thing that people need to do. And we'd have a much better earth. But getting back to the borders debate. A lot of people get really... Well, here's the thing that I think. I'm going to get into what there's some really interesting stuff about why this is all happening that I'll get into. So if you're really pro-borders, don't turn this off just yet, because I got some really interesting information that I want you to think about. But before that, I want to just mention that a lot of the anarchists that I hear talking about pro-borders, government borders, they're not really fully anarchists from what I've seen. I'll give you one good example, Victor Pross. Not many people know him. I had him on Anarchast a long time ago. He debated Larkin Rose, and it was the worst debate. I couldn't even watch it. I could watch Larkin, but I couldn't watch him because he was dancing around in circles. He would talk for like 20 minutes and not say anything. And that's always a pretty good sign that the person is not honestly debating principles or anything like that. You know, if it takes you an hour to say nothing, and Larkin's like, yeah, you just don't aggress against other people, done in 5 seconds. Usually it's that whole Occam's razor thing, usually, and it's almost always the case. The simplest answer is usually the best one. In fact, most things in the world today, they're confusing on purpose. Economics is a perfect example. That's why they have this whole central banking system. That's why they teach economics for 4 years in school. You just need to read one book and you know pretty much economics. It's called Economics in One Easy Lesson by, what's the name? Harry, I forget, anyway, but you can look it up. It's like this big. That's economics. Everything else they're teaching is fascist, communist, fascio/communist, which is what they have in the US and most of the places in the world today. Central planning, central banking, economics, which is bullshit. Bullshit. It's just a total scam. Just like most things. If it's super complicated, you can't even understand it. Unless we're talking about like, you know, something like really like, I'm not even sure what needs to be that complicated. Well, I guess maybe like, actually, I don't know. Most things, they're usually quite simple. Like I was going to say rocket science. Well, yeah, you need to know some pretty detailed math for trajectories and stuff like that, right? So that stuff's fine. But, you know, talking about like borders, you know, you can have, like Victor Prost talked for like an hour and didn't say anything. And in actual fact, Larkin kept on him and eventually Victor said what he meant. And he's like, yes, I would use aggression to keep people out of government property that I think is part mine. So yeah, good. Finally, he said it, right? Should have started with that right off the bat. So obviously he doesn't have it clear in his own mind. So he's fighting his own cognitive dissonance because he doesn't really want to say what he really feels. And always say what you really feel. Always. It could be wrong. Like, what's right, what's wrong anyway, right? But just say how you feel. Be honest. And that's what a lot of the so-called closed border anarchists aren't doing. They're not being honest with themselves. They want to be anarchists, they just can't quite do it. Being an anarchist is hard. It's very hard. That's why we lose people quite, you know, every now and then. Whenever a serious issue came up, like Stefan Molyneux used to say he was an anarchist. He used to do such great work about anarchy. Then he got really worried one day, or something happened, I don't know what happened, and now he's a statist because he's worried about Muslims. So that's quite typical. People will give up their principles in times when they feel really scared. That's why you need to be really strong to be an anarchist, and that's why it's really difficult for most people, because most people aren't that strong. Really, they actually are. They're born strong, but they've had that beat out of them their whole lives, to the point where they're just confused. They don't know. There's, you know, 12 years of government indoctrination camps, brainwashing, television programming. Most people just don't even know what's going on anymore. That's not to say that anarchy couldn't work. We have to put in the right incentives to make anarchy just the best option, even if you don't even understand what anarchy is. And things like Bitcoin are changing the game on that. That could destroy central banking, right? Things like, and these aren't anarchist things, but they're more free market, right? Private market, free market. Things like Uber and Amazon, or not Amazon, Airbnb. Carlos, Lara. Let him in. I don't want my dogs to go down there while those other dogs are there until I get there. Lara! Kind of funny. Most people have dogs to protect them. I protect my dogs. Anyway, Lara, in. Like I've fought dogs before. I fought a, what was it? Not a Doberman Pinscher. Man, I don't think I could win a Doberman Pinscher. It was thank God I haven't had to fight one of those. Those things are freaking, wow. It was like a Labrador or something. It was a big, but he didn't really want to fight. You know, it wasn't a hardcore fight, but there was a bit of a fight going on. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, it's hard to be an anarchist. It is hard. You have to be principled, right? And stick to your principles no matter what. And there's a lot of things that scare a lot of people out there. And one of them is you know, the general term xenophobia. People are scared of foreigners for whatever reason. And so Stefan Molyneux and a number of people have just, it's funny because they always call us the scared ones. You guys are cowards for not standing up to the Muslims. Like, I'll stand up to anyone who attacks me. They're not attacking me. If they were, I'll fight dogs. I'll fight anyone who tries to attack me or my family. But you know, people just get really scared, and then they just can't hold to their principles. And you know, it is hard. It's not easy. Should always do the right thing, no matter what, no matter how tough it gets, right? But a lot of these people, when it comes to borders, well, there's so many. Let's get into some details now. There's so many misconceptions. People are operating off the wrong information constantly. Here's one misconception. A lot of Americans believe that everyone in the world wants to move to the US. I can guarantee you that's not the case. I'm just one. But I live here in Mexico. There's more Mexicans leave the US every year than go to Mexico, or so go to the US. And that's pretty much factual. And I've met so many Mexicans here, and they're like, yeah, I used to live in the US. I'm like, and this happened like dozens of times, and I always go, oh, why'd you leave? They're like, oh, it's so bad up there now. They're like, the economy's not that good, plus it's like a prison camp. And I'm like, yeah, I know. So, you know, there's this conception that some people have, that a lot of people, the whole world is going to move to the US if they didn't have their borders. The US really doesn't have much borders. To begin with. It's a giant landmass. There's no one protecting the beaches. You can just roll up on a boat. I've done that myself. I've rolled in and out on my boat, never stopped for customs or anything. No one, there's nothing out there on the ocean. The ocean is freaking huge. Then you talk about airplanes. Unless you need a travel visa, and that's fairly easy to get. It's not that hard. Most people don't even need a travel visa to go to the US, and most people just fly to the US if they want to move there, and they just won't leave. And there's nothing really there to check if they've left or anything. When they leave the country, there's nothing really checking. They're changing all that now. It's going to get worse and worse. But up until now, there really hasn't been much border protection at all. Like, you can even just go to Canada and just walk across. You can go to Mexico. Adam Kokesh walked across. He did get caught, but he did it at the most popular area to walk across. But yeah, no, like there's really no border controls right now. So, and that's how the US is today. And yeah, the US sucks, but it sucks for different reasons. So there's this concept that if we don't close the borders, everyone's going to come here. Now, a lot of people bring up Europe. Now, that's a whole different story, and this is what we have to talk about. This was all done by the globalists on purpose. And I think some people do know this, and they want to stop it, and they think the best way is to close the borders or whatever. I kind of understand that point of view, especially in Europe with like 100 different small little countries there. So what's happened is, this is on purpose. The people who want the New World Order, the one world government, globalists, whatever you want to call them, they have been blowing up the Middle East for decades. And this, a lot of these closed border people who hate Muslims don't seem to understand this. Either that or they actually just like it. So at least be honest. If you think it's great that the US government and NATO, the UK government, with the support of people like Israel and Saudi Arabia and all that, if you think it's great they've been blowing up Muslims for decades, just say that. Be honest. If you think there's a billion Muslims in the world and they all need to be killed, and you don't even care how they get killed, just say that. Just say that. Don't dance around the question, because that's really what's going on. A lot of people call you Nazis or whatever, but say what you feel. Otherwise, we can never have any kind of debates, right? And that's what I find with a lot of these people. They clearly hate Muslim people for whatever reason, but they won't say it. And then they're like, we got to close the borders and all that kind of stuff. It's like, well, that's definitely not anarchist, what you're saying. Let's get government people to check everybody and check their papers and say who can go here or there. Like, turn life into hell, which it's getting close enough as it is already. But they'll never say, it's because I fucking hate Muslims. I want them all to be dead. Just say that if that's what you think. But here's the thing that they don't get. This has all been done. This is you've been fooled. You've been brainwashed, unfortunately. The globalists have been destroying the Middle East on purpose, and it's not because they hate Muslims. It's because they want to take over that entire region. Not just for the oil, but for they want to take over everything. And they're doing it. You know, after 9/11, which was done by the US government, Israel, Saudi Arabia. This is factual. This is not even up for debate. It was planned by the Project for a New American Century with Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld, Paul Wolfowitz, George Bush Sr. This was all talked about and planned. We need a new Pearl Harbor. It said that 1 year from the day, September 11, 2000. 1 year later, they had it. But that was actually in the works for decades. People don't know what's actually really going on. But people don't realize that this is on purpose, and it's not. Well, let's go back a little bit. So the U.S. government, NATO, all of these, UK, they've been bombing the Middle East since I was like in high school. I'm like nearly 50 years old now. So what's that, like 25 years or more? Just constantly. Like I think there's over 1 million people dead in civilians. Like just there's no army. There was no army in Iraq after day one of the first Gulf War, Gulf occupation terrorist attack. I don't want my dogs to go down. Rango! Lada! Rango! I gotta keep my dogs behind me before we get to those other dogs. I'll just go back here until we're done. And I will videotape the dog fight later if I'm able. Bruce! Bruce! Ben! Ben! Bruce! Bruce wants to go fight. He's always my one Chihuahua. His name's Bruce Lee for a reason. He actually wants to go fight them. Look. Bruce! Ben! Ben! Bruce, they'll kill you. Bruce! Bruce! Bruce, Ben! Alright, here he comes. Can't even see him, he's so small. Bruce, Ben! He wanted to go fight them. Here he comes. That's my Bruce Lee. Bruce, Ben! Muy bien. Muy bien, Bruce. Muy bien. That's my Bruce Lee. So it's been going, like imagine if Russia, or any country, had been bombing Christian countries for decades, for no reason. And in the US, there's no reason they're bombing Iraq, Syria, Libya, Afghanistan. There's no reason. Imagine if Russia had been bombing, what are some Christian countries? The US, Canada, yeah, just been bombing it for like decades. And then a few Canadian and US guys go over to Russia and they light themselves on fire or drive their car into a bunch of people or stab some people. You'd go, good. Don't blame them. Although it gets really weird when you're trying to fight collectivism, because those people that you're stabbing or driving over didn't actually do the act that hurt you, killed your family or whatever. It gets all weird, and this is why we just got to get rid of government. But yeah, imagine if that was happening. Like everyone would be like, yeah, of course. But US, UK, Europe, EU, NATO, the North Atlantic Terrorist Organization, all attack these Muslim countries for decades. And then if anyone ever sort of fights back a little bit, they're terrorists. And people don't see this. It's bizarre. People are very xenophobic, very closed-minded. Protect my people. You don't have any people. Your people are the human race. The only person you have is you. Everything else are people you know. You might kind of like them because you like hanging around with them. They eat the same food as you do, which is usually garbage, by the way. They like the same sports as you do, whatever. But they're not your people. Closest you could say to your people would be your direct family, like your children, because you did create them. You could say those are your people. Anyone else, those aren't your people. Anyway, let's get back to what's going on. So they've been bombing the Middle East on purpose for decades, spending trillions of dollars, bankrupting the US, which is causing all kinds of problems. And it's going to literally bankrupt the US. That's just one of the things. And then they came up with the idea, let's take all the people from all these countries we've been bombing, and mostly all just the men, young men, which that's a recipe for good times, taking millions of angry, broke young men and throwing them into a place they've never been before, don't even know how to act. Yeah, that's on purpose though. And they're doing it. They actually housed them in Turkey for like a year. They let them loose like on the end day of the Shemitah in 2015. I covered that. It was actually, I said the European Union, the Schengen area dissolved on that day. A lot of people say I was wrong on the Shemitah. No, if you actually pay attention, I was right on most of it. They did it on the exact days of the Shemitah, and they just let them loose. And that was the day that all the borders went up, gates and the fences in most European countries, and actually sort of shut down Schengen for a period of time. And they did that on purpose. And what they're trying to do is to destroy the culture or the cult in all those areas, because they all have democracies. And this is an area where we can agree with some of the closed border anarchists, they call themselves. But yeah, they are trying to destroy the culture. But what's actually causing the problem? Government. So this is all being done on purpose, because once you have the culture destroyed and a democracy, and this is where I think we agree, yeah, that area is screwed. These people they'll just vote for welfare until, you know, the currency is destroyed, the economy is destroyed. So on that point, we agree. But what is the real cause of all these problems? It's government. So what do the closed border anarchists or the alt-right want to fix this problem? The government. Problem reaction solution, the Hegelian dialectic. Look it up. They do this all the time. You fell for their ploy. And don't feel bad. I fall for all this stuff all the time. I just waking up to a lot of it right now. We've all been brainwashed. We've all been fooled. We've all been lied to. So yeah, to want the government to fix the problem caused by the government, pretty stupid. What we really need to do is even get more hardcore and tell people and wake people up to getting rid of government. Peros! Rango! How evil government is. And you know, if we can't, then we just lose, right? Like a lot of people are like, well, we gotta kill all these people. It's like, that's not the answer. It's never the answer. When has that ever been an answer for anything, right? And a lot of people are like, well, if all these people come to my area, shipped in by the government, which they actually are, this is all documented, Rango, then it's dramatically going to change the cult in my area. Yeah, it will. Absolutely. And, but why are you clinging so much to your cult? Right? You're just stuff you're used to. I'm not saying you gotta start doing Sharia law or stop eating pork because that's what everyone else in your area is doing. No, not at all. That's not what I'm saying at all. You should stop eating pork and all meat, but that's a whole different story. Rango! Bruce, I bet, went to try to fight them again. I hope he doesn't get... Bruce! Bruce Ben? Rango? Alright, here they come. Good. You know, cults change all the time. This idea of we got to make sure our cult never changes, and we have to use violence to make sure that happens. If you have to use violence to make sure your cult doesn't change, then your cult isn't worth saving, right? Like what is most people's cult? And this is where a lot of people get really, they always talk about, we got to defend the West. And I've talked about this before. We got to defend the West. Where's the West? From here west, I think it's that direction. So I got to defend that direction. What about this direction? I have to fight that direction, and I have to defend this direction. Obviously, they're not talking about west on a compass, but where are they talking about? And I keep asking them, and there's not really any answer. It sort of comes down to white people and more this sort of Anglo-Saxon sort of way of government law. From what I kind of understand, ballet and opera, I guess, is part of this cult that we have to defend. But really, if you can't defend that with books, ideas, talk, debate, and you have to defend it by using force against people, then your cult isn't good enough. If you have to use force to keep your cult going, then it's not a very good cult. But I don't really get what to defend. Like, I'm here in Mexico, and so many of these people who are really about closed borders think Mexicans are like, I don't even know. It's bizarre. Like, we sit down here, we watch what they say, and we're like, whoa, like, these people are nuts. They have no idea what they're even talking about. They've never even been here, never talked to anybody. Most of the people that I meet here in Acapulco, I can't speak for all of Mexico. Very nice, very civilized, very peaceful. You can't get in an elevator, out in an elevator without good morning, good afternoon, sir. You go up to the US now, get in an elevator and get either an angry look or they won't even look you in the eyes. You're definitely not getting a good morning most of the time. If anything, you might get a sup. So yeah, there you go. Like, your cult is already kind of gone that you imagine there is. But to use force, especially government force, if you want to use your own force, go ahead. Let's see how that works out. There's people, they're like, I'm gonna just go nuts and start killing Muslims. Go ahead if that's what you want to do. Let's see how it works out. You're gonna be dead pretty quick. And you're not gonna change anything. So what do you, well, we'll get like thousands of us together. All right, go ahead. If that's what you want to do it. It's not gonna help. It's not gonna make anything better. It's gonna make things worse. If you can't make things better without force, unless you're being attacked. Now that's no problem. If you're being attacked, if there's anyone, I don't care if it's Muslim, black, yellow, purple, yellow, whatever. If they're attacking you or raping your sister, you can do whatever you want to them. I don't care, and I support you. Especially in the act, especially. Afterwards, that's a different story a little bit. But in the act, yeah, if someone's trying to rob you with a gun, I wish you all the best of luck on, first of all, diffusing the situation. And if you have to, and you end up killing the guy, I have absolutely no problem with that. I think it's sad. I think it's sad that anyone thinks material items are worthy of losing your life, but that's how deluded most people are. But of course I support self-defense. And that's what a lot of these people will say. This is just self-defense. Look at Sweden, they say. Sweden's a really interesting situation. It's such a small population. It's like 3 million people. Or like 9 million. It's tiny. And so much innovation's come out of there. Like, what do they got? Like 3 major worldwide car companies? Like, isn't it Skoda or something? I'm not into cars. But I know they got like a few. From like a population of 9 million people. That's like 1/3 the size of Mexico City. And these people have created amazing stuff. So obviously, whoever this group of people is, quite a pretty cool group of people. Pretty entrepreneurial, pretty intelligent. And yeah, the government has, on purpose, taken people from like Africa and just thrown them in there on purpose and actually said, you can't do anything to stop them. We're going to take your homes. They're doing this in Germany. We're going to take your homes. And of course, I don't like this. This is ridiculous. Got to get rid of government. But to say it's the borders is the problem and the government needs to protect the borders, no, you got it all wrong. We've got to get rid of government ASAP. ASAP. And we can't get rid of government through violence either. This is the thing. We got to get out there and spread these ideas. And people will get it. They get access to this information. They don't get access to this. Most people get their information still, not necessarily from television programming, but through mainstream sources. So they're still getting a lot of their info, which is misinfo, wrong info, from you know, Associated Press and Reuters and, you know, all the liars, the propagandists. So they don't know what to do. But we're not going to win by using force against anybody. Unless, I said, again, if they attack you, then of course you can use force. Absolutely. But if they're not, you're never, ever going to win. This is the history of humanity. And letting them divide us. These people, a lot of these people from Libya, for example, and Syria. Syria's a great example. I've actually never been there. I'm so sad I never went before the US terrorist attack and destroyed the entire place. But I heard it was amazing. Just look up 1950s videos of Syria. It looks like, you know, one of the most beautiful, modern, civilized places in the world. Everyone in their suits, and not that suits are, you know, anything special, but like, you know, they looked like really looked amazing, looked really cool. And the people looked amazing. Those people don't want to move to Europe or the US. They wanted to stay in Syria, but it got destroyed so much by the US government and NATO and all that, that they have to leave. They don't want to leave. Most people don't want to leave. I'm here in Mexico. A lot of people say, oh, the Mexicans are all going to invade the US. Well, first of all, that US used to be Mexico, okay? So there's a lot of backstory to a lot of these things. Bruce Ben? Bruce, don't go there until I get there. Bruce! We'll walk up here one more time. Bruce Ben? Bruce Ben? Hopefully he doesn't go fight them before I get there. Yeah, most people don't want to leave. I'm here in Mexico. It's just like anywhere I've been. Anywhere. And I've been to like 100 countries. This is the thing. Most people don't travel, so they don't know. And they get all their news from CNN, which tell you this is the 4th most dangerous city in the world. Yeah, it's really, really bad. It's all propaganda. Most people don't want to leave where they're from. Most people, for whatever reason, I don't get it because I'm a total traveler. I totally believe in that astrology stuff because almost all the Sagittarius is, that's totally me. Oh, looks like we're almost running out. Oh, okay. But if you look at what a Sagittarius is, that's totally me. It's like traveler, adventurer. I need constant, you know, change. But most people aren't like that. Most people would be very happy just growing up right where they were born. It doesn't matter where it is, Africa, anywhere. That's where they know everyone. They know the food, they know everything. The language, they're just comfortable there. And why wouldn't they be, right? They don't want to leave. But it's the US government, NATO, and also their own governments, many of the times, like Venezuela, that destroy it. So it's always the government that destroys it. And then some of these people, the alt-right and closed border anarchists, think we need the government to fix it. The government is the cause of all the problems. So the government is not going to fix this. And there really isn't that big of problems either. Let's talk about reality. Yes, there is some problems in some areas, absolutely. Now let's talk about that too, like France. I'm half French, apparently. My mother's last name was Dion. And the more I see about French people, the more I'm like, I don't know if these are my people, really. I get the wine and cheese thing. I definitely did that for a number of years. Now I don't drink and I don't eat dairy, but... and I also used to get sitting there on a street corner, smoking a cigarette, talking to a cute girl. I get that part. Although I don't smoke anymore, and I don't really screw around too much anymore either, but I totally get it in the past. So I can see how, yeah, okay, those are a little bit my people. But what's the deal with not standing up for yourself against the government? They actually want more government. It's pretty much communist there. So a lot of these American sort of alt-right people are like, look at France. They're letting in all the immigrants. It's going to turn into like a socialist hellhole. It's like, it already is a socialist hellhole. And the fact that the French people don't want to change that just shows their cult, their culture is dead. Like they don't even care. And that's fine. How many cultures have died over how long we've been here? I don't even know how long we've been here. I know the Big Bang's bullshit, but I don't know how long we've been here. But, cultures die all the time. Cults die all the time. In fact, cults are always dying slowly and changing. They're always changing, right? So, a lot of these people, they just want things to stay the same. And I guess that's why they call a lot of these Republicans conservatives. We just want things to stay the same. Well, do ya? Do you really? Well, that's nice, brah, but things change. Well, I want to use force to keep them the same. Well, that's just stupid. That's just ridiculous. What a ridiculous idea. I like things to stay the same. And not just me, like you can stay the same, that's fine. I want everything to stay the same. I want everybody to stay the same. I don't want that restaurant to change its menu. I want everything to stay the same. And if they change something, I want people with guns to go around and make sure they don't. Like, whoa, you are fucked up. But a lot of people like, my wife's a good example. She sort of likes things to be pretty much stable, right? And a lot of women are like that. Because, in history, they've been nurturers. They have to take care of the kid. If it's constant chaos, if it's constant going from town to town, robbing and pillaging and war, that's not good for raising a kid. And so they like things just to be nice and don't change too much. That's fine, but don't use force to do it. So to get back to the borders debate, it's a tricky situation because we live in a world where it's so big government now and everything's so involved in government and the government's causing all these problems. What do you do? There's no easy answer at this point, but we have to just realize it's all been caused by government and try to wake people up to that. And we're seeing technology change things. Look at BitNation trying to change what a real citizen is. It's citizens now on the blockchain. Rules, laws, contracts, all on the blockchain now with Ethereum. Money on the blockchain, Bitcoin, Dash, Monero. So that's how you change things. Because no one has to agree to it. It just makes the old system obsolete. Everyone's like, why would I use that old system? Why would I use this piece of paper with dead criminals printed on it that they keep printing up as much as they want when I can just have this and no one can ever take it from me unless I lose my password. No one can tax me on it if I don't tell them I have it. You just make the old systems obsolete. So the real way we win is through creating those things. And that's what most of the people are doing at our conference here. And this wasn't meant to be an advertisement for the conference, but that's actually the case. At Anarchapulco. Last year was Brave the Future. Evacuate the state, brave the future. And that's exactly what people were doing. All kinds of new ways of education. Dana Martin, unschooling. Get kids out of the government indoctrination camps. That's where they get programmed to want all this stuff. Things like Bitcoin, making it so people can save again. You can't save in fiat currency. Most people don't even have bank accounts in the world. It's so hard to get. So they've been locked out of the world economy. Bitcoin opens it up. So that's how we win. It's not through begging the government to defend the borders that are just imaginary lines. They're imaginary. They're in your own head. Look at any map. Over time, it changes dramatically all the time. These are always changing, but nothing really actually changed. It's just, they're imaginary lines. So to get all wrapped up, and if they don't do that, there's gonna be a lot more Mexicans living around me. It's like, I don't know if you know many Mexicans. I much prefer Mexicans living around me than I'm talking average, in general, than your average American who are so, unfortunately, brainwashed. They've been dumbed down with fluoride in the water. That's another thing. Everything's the opposite of what you're told. A lot of people come to Mexico like, I'm scared to drink the water. It's like, really? Where are you from? The US? Oh, I'd be so scared to drink the water there. And they're like, why? It's got frickin' poison in it, fluoride. Oh, what? They told me it's good for my teeth. Oh, did they tell you that? Nice story. And people have no idea. So anyway, the whole answer is never. Bruce, just wait. We'll go fight them together. Now Jerry wants to fight. The Chihuahuas. My boxer's like, nah, let's not fight. The Chihuahuas. Bruce, Ben? Jenny, Ben? I gotta get them up here and then I'm gonna go down with them. Bruce! Yeah, the whole answer, just like this, is no violence. Violence is never the answer. And Bruce! Bruce, don't fight them. You're gonna die. Bruce! Oh man. Hopefully this doesn't have a really sad ending. But you know what, if Bruce is that stupid, yeah, really, if he's that stupid, he's gonna go fight two dogs that are like 50 pounds each and he's 2 pounds. Look, he is. Bruce! Bruce, man! Alright, I better go. I'll turn on the video when I get down there. But anyway, the end of the story on borders is the government is not the answer. It's a screwed up situation, yes, but we all have to realize the government is not the answer. And violence, which is enforcing government borders, is not the answer. We have to find better solutions to these problems. And a big one is just waking people up. All right, so we went back to where we were, and those dogs had left. So the border dispute, the private property dispute, ended peacefully, which is kind of the whole theme of what we're talking about here. Is, you know, we didn't need to call the government. You know, there's some new people in our area, new dogs. They didn't seem to understand. We've been here, we come here every day. We've been here every day. They can't be telling us that we need to leave because they just got here now. No, 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 no. But if they want to be peaceful and enjoy this entire area, this is a big area, no problem. But if they do attack us, we will defend ourselves. But if they don't attack us, no problem. And that's this whole thing. That's this whole debate on borders. It's sort of similar. And my dogs were like, yeah, it's all good. Just, you know, new dogs, we like dogs. We're dogs. We like other dogs. So yeah, come into our area. Oh, no problem. No problem. But don't attack us, or you're going to have some problems. Even though we're tiny, we're 2 pounds, we'll rip your ankles right off. And I'll be behind with a giant drop kick. But yeah, that's the whole debate. And a lot of the people, it's all fear-based. A lot of people are really concerned about this, really scared. Scared, that's the point, they're scared. And when you're scared, you're not thinking, you're getting very aggressive. And you know what, if literally 1 million Muslims move into your area and you don't like Muslims, I would suggest you just leave. Definitely not going to solve anything by getting into fights. If for whatever reason, it could be any reason, it could be because the government put them there. And if you don't like them for whatever reason, just leave. It's a giant world. People leave all the time. All these people that are really alt-right and really Nazi-like, who live in the US, they all left. They just didn't like it in England or wherever in Europe. They just took off. They didn't run away, as I said yesterday. They just left. And that's it. You don't gotta get all violence. And government is violence. And if there's closed border anarchists out there trying to justify government and their borders, you're really not an anarchist. You are trying to, you're scared for whatever reason, and you want things to stay the same. As I pointed out earlier, things don't stay the same. And to use violence to stop it that's pure statism. And so just stop calling yourself an anarchist. Unless you can come up with some really, Chase's reasoning was interesting. I didn't fully understand it, and I think anything that complicated doesn't make a lot of sense. I'll try to look into it more though. Maybe he had some good points, but it actually turned out at the end, well, I don't even know. I didn't fully understand it. But the end goal is just, you know, peace, love, and anarchy. And, you know, things change. People change. Cults change all the time. Just let it go. That's what an anarchist is letting things occur. Letting reality happen. Letting things occur without trying to control everything through violence. That's it. And most people still apparently aren't ready for that. My dogs all get it. They're like, yeah, it's all good. There are new dogs in the area. Just, you know, don't cause us problems and we're all good. So yeah, let's go into our private property. Rango, Ben. Rango. Rango. Hey, bien, Rango. Yeah, here's our private property. Yeah, don't come fucking around here, dogs. Muy bien, Lucy.